The bridge of the quiet wind was peaceful. Captain Oz stood near the viewing window, watching the stars drift past as his ship moved through neutral space. He had made this journey many times before. 400 years of life had taught him that space was mostly empty and mostly safe. Trade routes were boring and boring was good. His navigator sat at her station near the front of the bridge. She was young by standards, barely 80 years old, and this was her first deep space assignment. Her purple skin glowed softly under the dim lights of the bridge, and her 4 eyes moved quickly across her screens as she checked their course. "Captain," she said, "we are on schedule. We should reach the trading station in 2 cycles." Oz nodded slowly. His species lived long lives and they learned to be patient. They were traders, not warriors. They had survived for thousands of years by being careful, by avoiding conflict, and by knowing when to run. The alarm changed everything. Every screen on the bridge turned red at the same moment. A loud warning sound filled the air and jumped in her seat. Words appeared across her display, flashing in bright letters that demanded attention. Unknown ship detected. Classification human. Status evade immediately. Stared at the words. She had never seen this warning before. She turned to look at her captain and felt her blood turn cold. Oz had gone completely still. His gray skin had become pale, almost white. His hands were shaking as he gripped the railing near the window. In 80 years of life had never seen fear like this. Not on the face of an elder. Not on the face of a captain with 4 centuries of experience. "Captain," she asked, "what is happening? It is just one ship." Oz moved quickly to the main control panel. His fingers flew across the buttons as he entered new commands. "Change course," he ordered. "Maximum speed, now." "But Captain, we do not even know if they are hostile. Should we not wait and see what they want?" "No," the word came out hard and fast. "We do not wait, we do not see, we run." The quiet wind turned sharply and its engines pushed harder, felt the ship vibrate as it tried to escape. She looked at her screens and watched the human ship on her sensors. It was not very large. It was actually smaller than their own vessel. She did not understand why they were running from it. "Captain, please explain this to me," she said. "I have studied many species during my training. I know about the Empire. I know about the Syndicate Raiders. Those are dangerous. But humans, I have read very little about them. Why does our computer tell us to evade immediately?" Oz kept his eyes on the sensors. The human ship was following them. It was fast, much faster than the quiet wind. They could not escape. "Because," the captain said quietly, "every species in this galaxy has learned the same lesson about humans. Some learned it through stories. Some learned it through history. And some learned it by making the mistake of threatening them." "What lesson?" The captain finally looked at her. His eyes were tired and afraid. "Humans are not conquerors. They do not want to rule the galaxy. They do not want to control other species. That would be easier to understand. That would be simple." "Then what are they?" "They are protectors, and that makes them the most dangerous species that has ever existed." Shook her head. "I do not understand. How can protectors be dangerous?" "Because they do not simply defend. They pursue, they remember, and they never stop." The communication panel beeped. Someone was trying to contact them, looked at the screen and saw the source of the signal. It was the human ship. Oz closed his eyes for a moment. Then he straightened his back and tried to look calm. Opened the channel. A human face appeared on their main screen. It belonged to a male with short brown hair and light skin. He wore a uniform that was neat and clean, and his expression was friendly. He smiled at them. "This is Commander Jake of the USS Resolute," the human said. "We noticed your ship has some damage to your cargo bay. Our sensors picked up a small hull breach on your lower deck. Do you need any help?" Blinked. She quickly checked her own sensors and saw that the human was correct. There was damage to their cargo bay. It was minor, something that must have happened when they passed through an asteroid field 2 cycles ago. She had not even noticed it. The human ship had detected it from a great distance. Their sensors were incredibly advanced. Captain Ah spoke carefully. "Commander, we thank you for your concern. The damage is small. We can repair it ourselves." "Are you sure?" asked. "We have engineers who would be happy to help. Free of charge, of course. It would not take long." Free of charge. A human was offering to help them for nothing. Did not know how to process this information. Everything she had just heard about humans suggested they were terrifying, but this man seemed kind. "We are sure," Ah said. "We do not wish to trouble you." Nodded. "Understood. But we will fly alongside you for a while if that is acceptable. This area of space has seen some raider activity lately. Syndicate remnants. We want to make sure you reach your destination safely." The captain's hands were still shaking, could see it clearly, but his voice remained steady as he answered. "That is acceptable, thank you, Commander." "No problem at all. Resolute out." The screen went dark, turned to face her captain with a dozen questions in her mind. But Oz simply stood there, staring at the empty screen, his body tense with fear. "He seemed nice," said quietly. "Yes," the captain replied. "They always do, until you give them a reason not to be." Wanted to argue. She wanted to say that perhaps the old stories were wrong, that perhaps humans were simply a kind species who liked to help others. But she saw the look in her captain's eyes. 400 years of experience had taught him something that she did not yet understand. The quiet wind continued on its course, and beside it, silent and watchful, the human ship followed, could not sleep. She lay in her small cabin aboard the quiet wind, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the human ship flying beside them. Commander had seemed so normal, so friendly. She needed to understand why her captain was so afraid. She got out of bed and walked to the ship's library terminal. It was a small room filled with data storage units that contained information about thousands of species across the galaxy. She sat down and began to search for everything she could find about humans. The first thing she learned was that humans were young. Their species had only been traveling through space for about 300 years. That was nothing compared to the who had been among the stars for over 10,000 years. Humans should have been weak. They should have been primitive. They should have been easy prey for the older and stronger civilizations. But they were not. Found the records of first contact. It happened 250 years ago when the Empire discovered a small human colony on a moon called Titan. They were powerful. They had conquered dozens of species. They saw humans as simple creatures, barely more advanced than animals. They attacked the colony without warning, expecting an easy victory. They were wrong. The humans on Titan sent out a distress call. It reached Earth in minutes. And then something happened that the galaxy had never seen before. Every human ship in the system turned toward Titan. Military vessels, cargo ships, mining craft, even personal transports. They all dropped whatever they were doing and flew toward the colony. Within hours, a fleet had gathered that was larger than anything they had expected. Leading them was Admiral Ben Carter. Found images of him in the records. He was an older man with gray hair and hard eyes. He did not look cruel. He looked determined. The battle was short. They had better weapons and more experience. But the humans did not care. They threw themselves at the enemy fleet with no thought for their own survival. Ships that were damaged kept fighting. Ships that were burning kept attacking. They had never faced an enemy that simply refused to stop. When it was over, half the human fleet was destroyed, but they had lost everything. Expected the records to end there. The humans had won. The colony was saved. That should have been the end of it. But the humans were not finished. Admiral Carter gathered what was left of his fleet and followed the. He chased them across 3 star systems, destroying every military base and supply depot he found. They tried to negotiate. They offered peace. They offered territory. They offered anything the humans wanted. Carter refused. He kept coming. The war ended 6 months later when the Empire surrendered completely. They agreed to every demand the humans made. They paid for the damage to Titan. They returned every human prisoner, and they promised never to threaten humanity again. The galaxy watched this happen and learned a terrible lesson. Humans did not fight for territory. They did not fight for resources. They did not fight for power. They fought for each other. And when you hurt one of them, all of them came for you. Kept reading. She found more stories, more incidents that had shaped humanity's reputation. There was the Syndicate War, which happened about 100 years ago. The Syndicate was a criminal organization that operated across dozens of systems. They dealt in slaves, weapons, and stolen goods. They were careful never to bother the major powers, picking on weak species who could not fight back. Then they made a mistake. They captured a human transport ship carrying families to a new colony. They took the passengers and sold them as slaves. The humans responded with a military campaign that lasted 6 months. They did not just rescue their people. They dismantled the entire syndicate. Every base, every ship, every hiding place was found and destroyed. The criminals who had taken the humans were hunted down one by one. Some of them tried to hide on the other side of the galaxy. It did not matter. The humans found them anyway. When it was over, the syndicate no longer existed. Thousands of slaves from dozens of species were freed. The humans returned them all to their home worlds and asked for nothing in return. Found one more story that made her understand. 40 years ago, there was a space station called. It was a trading post in neutral territory, home to many different species. One day, a group of pirates attacked the station. They killed hundreds of people and took the rest as hostages. A single human ship was passing through the area. It received the distress call and changed course to help. The pirates saw it coming and laughed. One ship against an army of pirates. The humans were fools. The ship was called the Wandering Star. It was not a military vessel. It was a simple cargo transport with a crew of 23 humans. They were traders, not soldiers. It did not matter. The Wandering Star attacked the pirates without hesitation. The crew used everything they had. When their weapons ran out of ammunition, they rammed the pirate ships with their own hull. When their engines failed, they used escape pods as missiles. They fought like nothing the pirates had ever seen. 17 of the 23 crew members died that day. But they held the pirates long enough for military ships to arrive and rescue the hostages. The captain of the Wandering Star was a woman named Grace Miller. She survived, barely. When reporters asked her why she had attacked when the odds were so impossible, she gave a simple answer. People needed help. We were there. What else were we supposed to do? Closed the terminal and sat in silence. She finally understood why her captain was afraid. She finally understood the warning in their computer systems. Humans were not dangerous because they were cruel. They were dangerous because they cared. They cared so much that they would throw away their own lives to protect strangers. They cared so much that they would chase you across the galaxy if you hurt someone they had decided to protect. And now a human ship was flying beside the quiet wind, keeping them safe from raiders. Walked back to her cabin with a strange feeling in her chest. It was not fear anymore. It was something closer to wonder. She had spent her whole life thinking that strength came from weapons and ships and armies. The humans had shown her a different kind of strength, the kind that came from refusing to abandon anyone, no matter the cost. She fell asleep thinking about Commander and his friendly smile. And for the first time since the warning had appeared on her screen, she felt safe. The next morning, Commander contacted the quiet wind again. He appeared on their screen with the same friendly smile he had shown before. "Good morning," he said. "I hope we did not disturb your rest. I wanted to check on you and see if you had changed your mind about those repairs." Captain Oz stood stiffly on the bridge. He had not slept well, could see the tiredness in his eyes. "Commander, we appreciate your concern, but we do not wish to be a burden." "You would not be a burden at all," said. "We have engineers who are bored out of their minds. Honestly, you would be doing us a favor by giving them something to do." The captain hesitated, watched him struggle with the decision. She knew he wanted to refuse. Every part of his training told him to keep distance from the humans, to stay safe, to avoid any situation he could not control. But the damage to their cargo bay was real. If it got worse, they could lose valuable goods. The repair would take their own engineers many hours to complete. "Very well," Os finally said. "We accept your offer, but please send only the engineers you need. We do not wish to crowd our ship." Nodded. "Of course. I will send 2 people, Chief Engineer Danny Park and Dr. Lisa Vance. The doctor just wants to check on your crew, make sure no one was hurt when the damage occurred. Is that acceptable?" A doctor. The humans were sending a doctor to check on the health of strangers. Os looked confused, as if he could not understand why anyone would do such a thing. "That is acceptable," he said. An hour later, a small shuttle crossed the space between the 2 ships. It docked with the quiet wind, and the airlock opened with a soft hiss. Stood with Captain Os and 2 other crew members to greet their visitors. The first human to step through was a man with black hair and warm brown eyes. He carried a large bag of tools over his shoulder, and he smiled broadly as he looked around the ship. "Hello there," he said. "I am Danny Park. Nice to meet you all. Beautiful ship you have here." Behind him came a woman with hair tied back in a simple style. She carried a medical kit and moved with calm confidence. Her eyes were kind as she studied the. "I am Dr. Lisa Vance," she said. "Thank you for allowing us aboard. We promise not to take up too much of your time." Stared at them. They looked so ordinary, so normal. They did not look like the terrifying warriors she had read about in the historical records. They looked like regular people. Captain Os kept his distance. "The cargo bay is on the lower deck. One of my crew will show you the way." Danny nodded cheerfully. "Perfect, lead on." The group split up. Danny followed a crew member toward the cargo bay, while Dr. Vance stayed on the main deck to examine the crew, watched her work with fascination. The doctor was gentle and patient. She used devices from her kit to scan each crew member, explaining what she was doing in simple words. She asked questions about their health and listened carefully to the answers. She treated them with respect and kindness, as if they were her own patients. One of the older crew members, a male named, had been suffering from a breathing problem for many years. It was a chronic condition that medicine could not cure. Dr. Vance noticed it immediately. "This condition," she said, studying her scanner, "how long have you had it?" Looked uncomfortable. "About 60 years. Our doctors say there is nothing they can do." Dr. Vance frowned thoughtfully. "Would you allow me to try something? I have a treatment that might help. It will not cure you completely, but it could make breathing easier." Glanced at Captain Os. The captain nodded slowly, giving permission, turned back to the human doctor. "You would do this for me. We cannot pay you." Dr. Vance smiled. "I do not want payment. I became a doctor to help people. That is enough for me." She took a small device from her kit and pressed it against his chest. There was a soft humming sound, and then it was done. Took a deep breath and his eyes went wide. "I can breathe," he whispered. "I can really breathe. The pain is gone." Dr. Vance patted his arm gently. "The treatment will need to be repeated every few months, but I will give you the instructions. You should be able to do it yourself." Watched this happen and felt something shift inside her. This was not the behavior of a dangerous species. This was compassion, pure and simple. She excused herself and went down to the cargo bay to find Danny Park. She discovered him lying on his back under a damaged panel, tools scattered around him as he worked. He was humming a song she did not recognize. "Hello," she said quietly. Danny slid out from under the panel and looked up at her. "Hey there, Navigator, right? Your captain mentioned you. First deep space assignment." "Yes, how did you know?" "You have that look, the excited look, the one that says everything is new and amazing." He grinned. "I remember that feeling. It is a good feeling." Sat down on a nearby crate. "Can I ask you a question?" "Sure." "Why do you help strangers? Your ship saw our damage from far away. You could have ignored it. You could have continued on your mission, but you stopped to offer help. Why?" Danny was quiet for a moment. He sat up and looked at her with serious eyes. The cheerful expression faded, replaced by something deeper. "Do you know why humans left Earth?" he asked. "Why we started exploring space?" "I do not." "Because we were alone. For thousands of years we looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. We sent signals into the darkness and got no answer. We felt so small, so isolated. We thought we were the only ones." He picked up a tool and turned it over in his hands. "When we finally reached the stars and found other species, we were so happy. We were not alone anymore. But then we learned something terrible. We learned that many species were suffering. They were being attacked, enslaved, exploited, and no one was helping them. So you decided to help them." "We decided that no one should have to feel alone and helpless, not if we could do something about it." He looked at her with conviction in his eyes. "We made ourselves strong so that we would never be helpless again, and we use that strength to make sure others do not have to feel that way either." "Thought about this for a long time. The galaxy fears humans because you are powerful." "Yes. But you became powerful because you care." Danny smiled. It was a sad smile full of understanding. "The galaxy never seems to understand that part. They see our ships and our weapons and our soldiers. They do not see why we have them." He went back to his work, sliding under the panel again. His voice came out muffled but clear. "Your cargo bay will be fixed in about an hour, good as new, and Navigator." "Yes." "If you ever need help, any kind of help, do not be afraid to ask. That is what we are here for." Left the cargo bay with tears in her 4 eyes. She finally understood the truth about humans. They were not monsters. They were not conquerors. They were simply people who had decided that kindness was worth fighting for. And she was grateful they were on her side. The attack came without warning. Was on the bridge when the alarm started screaming. 3 ships appeared on her sensors, emerging from behind a nearby asteroid field where they had been hiding. They were moving fast, heading straight for the quiet wind. "Raiders," Captain Oz said, his voice tight with fear. "Syndicate remnants. They must have been tracking us for days." Looked at the enemy ships on her screen. They were armed and dangerous, built for one purpose: to capture cargo vessels and sell their crews into slavery. Against a single trade ship like the Quiet Wind, they would have been unstoppable. But the Quiet Wind was not alone. The communication panel crackled to life. Commander's voice came through, calm and steady. "Quiet Wind, this is Resolute. Stay behind us. Do not try to run. We will handle this." The human ship moved without hesitation. It placed itself directly between the raiders and the vessel, like a shield standing against the darkness. Watched it happen and felt her heart pound in her chest. "They are insane," one of the crew members whispered. 3 against 1. The humans will be destroyed." Captain Oz said nothing. He simply watched the screen with wide eyes. The raiders slowed down when they saw the human ship. There was a long moment of silence as both sides studied each other. Then a new voice came over the communication channel. It was harsh and cruel, filled with arrogance. "Human vessel, this is Captain of the Syndicate Fleet. Move aside. We have no quarrel with you. We only want the ship." His reply was immediate. "This vessel is under our protection. Leave now and we will not pursue you." Laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Protection? One ship cannot protect anything. You are outnumbered and move aside or we will destroy you and take what we want anyway." There was a brief pause. When spoke again, his voice had changed. The warmth was gone. The friendliness had disappeared. What remained was cold and hard like steel in winter. "This is your only warning. Leave now." Laughed again, fire. The three raider ships opened their weapons at the same moment. Beams of energy and missiles streaked through space toward the Resolute. Gasped and covered her eyes, certain she was about to watch the human ship die. The Resolute did not die. It absorbed the first wave of attacks like they were nothing. Its shields flared bright and held firm. Then it began to move. Had never seen a ship move like that. The Resolute spun and twisted through space with impossible speed, dodging some attacks while taking others on its reinforced hull. It was like watching a dancer, graceful and deadly at the same time. Then the human ship returned fire. The first shot hit the lead raider ship and tore through its shields like they were made of paper. The second shot destroyed its engines. The third shot left it spinning helplessly in the void, unable to fight or flee. The whole thing took less than 30 seconds. The other two raiders tried to scatter. They turned their ships and pushed their engines to maximum, desperate to escape. But the Resolute was faster. It chased them down one at a time, each pursuit ending the same way. Precise shots, disabled engines, destroyed weapons. No killing blows, but no mercy either. The humans did not destroy the raider ships completely. They simply made sure they could never threaten anyone again. 4 minutes. That was how long it took. 4 minutes for a single human ship to defeat 3 enemies. Stood on the bridge of the quiet wind with her mouth hanging open. The rest of the crew was the same. Even Captain Oss looked stunned, his ancient eyes wide with shock. The communication panel activated again. His voice came through, warm and friendly once more, as if nothing had happened. "Quiet wind, you are safe now. The raiders have been neutralized. We will stay with you until we reach the trading station, just to be sure there are no more surprises." Oss found his voice. "Commander, we do not know how to thank you. You risked your ship and your crew for strangers." "That is what we do," replied simply. "No thanks necessary." "But your ship, you took damage. We saw the hits you absorbed." "Nothing serious. Our engineers will have it fixed before we reach the station. Speaking of which, how is your crew? Is everyone okay over there?" Realized that the humans' first concern, even after battle, was for their safety. He had just fought off 3 enemy ships, and he was asking if they were all right. "We are unharmed," Oss said, "thanks to you." "Good, that is all that matters. Resolute out." The screen went dark. The bridge of the quiet wind was silent for a long moment. Finally spoke, "Captain, I understand now." Oss looked at her. "What do you understand?" "The warning in our computer systems. It says to evade humans immediately. I always thought it was meant for us, a warning to protect us from them." "And now?" Looked at the sensor display. The 3 raider ships were drifting helplessly in space. Their crews were alive but trapped, waiting for someone to come and arrest them. They had thought they were predators. They had learned they were wrong. "The warning is not for us," said quietly. "It is for people like those raiders. It is a warning to anyone who thinks about hurting innocent people. It is telling them to stay away, because if they do not, the humans will come for them." Captain Oss was silent for a long time. Then slowly he nodded. "I have been afraid of humans for 300 years, he admitted. "Since I was young and first heard the stories, I thought they were monsters hiding behind friendly faces. I thought their kindness was a trap." "What do you think now?" The old captain looked out the window at the USS Resolute flying beside them. The human ship had burn marks on its hull where it had taken hits meant for the quiet wind. It had suffered damage protecting strangers. It had no obligation to help. "I think," Oss said slowly, "that I have been a fool. The humans are not monsters, they are guardians, and the galaxy is lucky to have them. Smiled. It was the first time she had smiled since the warning appeared on her screen 2 days ago. She finally understood why the humans were feared. It was not because they were cruel. It was because they cared so much that they would fight anyone, anywhere, to protect the innocent. That kind of determination, that kind of love, was the most terrifying force in the universe. And she was glad it was on her side. The trading station appeared on their sensors like a jewel floating in the darkness of space. It was enormous, home to thousands of beings from dozens of different species. Ships came and went constantly, filling the area with traffic and noise and life. The quiet wind approached slowly, with the USS Resolute flying beside it. Watched the other ships around them and noticed something interesting. Every single one of them moved out of the way when they saw the human vessel. They gave the Resolute a wide space, keeping their distance without being asked. News of what had happened traveled fast. By the time the quiet wind docked at the station, everyone seemed to know the story. A human ship had destroyed 3 syndicate raiders to protect a random trader. The tale spread through the station like fire, growing bigger with each telling. Stood at the airlock as the crew prepared to disembark. Their cargo was safe. Their ship was repaired. Everyone was healthy and unharmed, all because of humans they had met by chance in the emptiness of space. Commander and his crew came to say goodbye. They crossed from the Resolute to the quiet wind one last time, standing in the corridor with warm smiles on their faces. "I guess this is where we part ways," said. "It was nice meeting all of you." Captain Oz stepped forward. He moved stiffly, as if what he was about to do was difficult for him. Then he did something had never seen him do before. He bowed his head to the humans in a gesture of deep respect. "Commander," the old captain said, "I have lived for 400 years. I have met many species. I have heard many stories about humans, and I believed them all. I believed you were dangerous and unpredictable and best avoided at all costs." Listened quietly, his expression patient. "I was wrong," Oz continued. "You are dangerous, yes, but not to people like us. You are dangerous to those who would harm the innocent. You are dangerous to slavers and pirates and conquerors. And that is not something to fear. That is something to celebrate." Smiled gently. "We know what people say about us out there. We know the warnings and the stories and the fear. Honestly, we would rather be feared and have people stay safe than be loved and watch innocent people suffer." "But does it not bother you," asked, "that everyone runs from you, that everyone thinks you are monsters?" Thought about this for a moment. "Sometimes," he admitted. "It gets lonely being the species everyone avoids, but then we remember why we do what we do. We remember the colonies we have saved, the slaves we have freed, the innocents we have protected, and we know it is worth it." Dr. Lisa Vance stepped forward and handed a small device to. "This is a medical scanner configured for biology. It will help you take care of your crew. Consider it a gift." Danny Park was next. He gave Captain Oz a data chip. "This contains the schematics for the repairs we made to your cargo bay. If anything breaks again, you can fix it yourselves. But if you ever need help, just call." Felt tears forming in her eyes. These humans owed them nothing. They had already saved their lives and repaired their ship, and still they were giving more. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you give so much to strangers?" Looked at her with kindness in his eyes. "Because that is who we are. That is who we choose to be. The galaxy is dark and cold and dangerous. We cannot change that, but we can be a light in the darkness. We can be the help that arrives when hope is gone. We can be the reason that innocent people survive when everything is against them." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. He handed it to. "This is a frequency," he explained. "A direct line to request human assistance. If you are ever in danger anywhere in this sector, you can use this to call for help. A human ship will come." Took the card with trembling hands. "You would do that for us, for everyone." For everyone who needs it. That is the promise we made to ourselves a long time ago. We will never turn away from someone who needs help. Never. The humans said their final goodbyes and returned to their ship. The Resolute undocked from the station and began to move away, its engines glowing blue in the darkness. Watched it go from a viewing window, the card still clutched in her fingers. Other beings on the station watched too. She heard them whispering, their voices filled with the same fear she had felt when she first saw the warning on her screen. "Humans," someone said nearby, "stay away from them, they are trouble." Turned to face the speaker. It was a merchant from a species she did not recognize, his eyes nervous as he watched the human ship depart. "They are not trouble," said firmly, "they are hope." The merchant looked at her like she was crazy. He shook his head and walked away, still afraid, still believing the old stories. Did not care, she knew the truth now. She had seen it with her own eyes. That night she updated her personal log. She wrote about everything that had happened since the warning first appeared on her screen. She wrote about Captain Oss and his ancient fear. She wrote about Danny Park and his explanation of why humans help strangers. She wrote about Dr. Lisa Vance's healing without asking for anything in return. She wrote about Commander and his cold determination during battle, followed by his warm kindness afterward. And at the end, she wrote about the warning itself. Unknown ship detected. Classification human. Status evade immediately. She understood it now. The warning was not wrong. It was just incomplete. It did not explain why you should evade. It did not tell you that the humans were only dangerous to those who deserved it. Far across the galaxy, a different ship detected the USS Resolute on its sensors. The same warning flashed across its screens. The same words appeared in bright red letters. The captain of that ship was a slaver. He had been hunting for vulnerable vessels to attack, looking for easy prey to capture and sell. When he saw the human ship, his blood went cold. He did not wait to see if the humans had noticed him. He did not try to fight or negotiate. He simply turned his ship around and ran as fast as he could in the opposite direction. The USS Resolute never even knew he was there. Commander was on the bridge, drinking coffee and talking with his crew about nothing important. He had no idea that his presence alone had just saved a dozen lives. That was the power of humanity's reputation. That was the purpose of the warning. The humans did not need to fight every battle. They did not need to chase every criminal. Sometimes, just being there was enough. The fear they inspired kept the predators away and the innocent safe. Closed her log and looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Resolute was continuing its patrol. Somewhere out there, humans were watching over the darkness, ready to help anyone who needed them. She smiled and whispered a single word into the silence of her cabin. "Guardians." Then she went to sleep, feeling safer than she had ever felt in her entire life.